Hello, geometry students. Today we're going to focus on section 6-3, which will talk about tests for parallelograms. Before we begin, look at problems 1, 2, and 3, and you yourself decide if they make a parallelogram or not. Please pause the video and answer those questions. Welcome back. In number 1, I believe that you probably wrote yes. You noticed that you had opposite angles being congruent. That was a characteristic of a parallelogram, so this would be a parallelogram. In number 2, it looks like a parallelogram, but I don't know my sides are equal. I don't know my angles are equal, so you probably have written no. You do not have enough information. In number 3, you don't have information about your sides. When you look at your angles, you say they add up to 170, you need 180, so you've probably written no there as well. Let's take a look at the tests for parallelograms. These are very similar to the characteristics that you learned in the previous lesson. Number 1 reads, both sets of opposite sides are equal. You need to have 2 sets, and you need to write that when you're writing your list down. You need to write both sets of opposite sides. So my top and my bottom, and my left and my right are congruent. Number 2 reads, both sets of opposite angles are equal. So in number 2, I would have a diagram that would mark my opposite angles being equal or congruent. In number 3, it reads one pair of sides equal and parallel. That means I have to have congruent markings and arrow markings on the same lines. They have to be on the same lines. Number 4 says diagonals bisect. If you have a parallelogram and you have your diagonals, those 2 pieces will be equal, and the other 2 parts of the diagonals will be equal. And number 5, the 5th test says both sets of opposite sides are parallel. So you need both sets. So the top and the bottom need arrows, and your sides need arrows. Those are our 5 tests for parallelograms. All right, let's take a look at our examples. These are similar to what we did yesterday, where you have to find the value of x or y to make it a parallelogram. I suggest you pause the video, attempt them, and then if you don't understand them, follow along. If you've gotten them correct, then just fast forward on to the next section. Welcome back. All right, in number 1, opposite sides are equal. So you take 2y equals 8, divide by 2, y is 4. Top and bottom are equal. 2x minus 2 is 12. Add your 2, 2x is 14, x is 7. Moving on to number 2. Opposite angles are equal. 11x equals 55, x equals 5. To find your y, you're going to have to take adjacent angles. They would be supplementary because the lines are parallel. Those are consecutive interior. My 5y plus 55 is 180. Move my 55. Y equals 125. Y is 25. I'm not going to do number 3 because it's similar to number 2. Number 4, whoops, our answer's getting lost here. Here's the answer to number 4. Opposite sides are equal, so I think you got that. 6y is 18, y is 3. Again, This time you're using your parallel lines and you're using your transverse line. And we talked about this the other day. So now you have alternate interior angles. 9x is equal to 45. X is 5. The next section says, determine if each quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Justify your answer. So I'm going to use one of those 5 things that I have written on the previous page. I see that I have 2 sets of opposite sides being equal. You need to write something like both sets of opposite sides equal, or 2 sets of opposite sides equal. You need something like that. Do not just write opposite sides equal. I will mark that wrong. You need to have both sets or 2 sets. In number 2, you're looking and you're thinking, those add to 180. So I'm thinking we can add arrows here because those are consecutive interior angles, and consecutive interior angles add up to 180. You only have 1 set of parallel lines though. You do not have arrows. There are no arrows on this one and that one, the left and the right one. So this is going to be a no. You can't tell. Number 3. When you look at number 3, you're saying, well, those don't add to 180. They're only 170, so I'm not going to be able to add arrows because these are consecutive interior. They don't add to 180, so you're writing no down. Now, some of you are thinking, what about if that had been 100 here and 80 there? And I still had my markings on my left and my right. Now, these add up to 180. Yes, that is right. They are consecutive interior angles. If your consecutive interior angles add up to 180, lines are parallel. So yes, you can add arrows. You can add arrows here. This is still a no. This is still a no because the equal and the parallel must be on the same lines. These are not on the same lines. The arrows are on the top and the bottom. The congruent markings are on the left and the right. So that is still a no, but it's worth exploring. Let's move on to the next section. It says graph each quadrilateral with the given vertices. Now, I already took the time to graph those. You may need to pause the video to do that. I did that to save some time and keep my video down to its allotted time. Then I have to decide if the figure is a parallelogram. Justify your answer with the method indicated. So this method says you've got to use your slope formula. When you're using your slope formula, you're really checking parallel lines. Now, this is nice because I can just use my rise over run. I'm going to have to check both sets of opposite sides. So I'm going to have to find the slope of AB. And AB is going to hopefully be parallel to CD. So I'm going to find AB's slope, and I'm going to find CD's slope. I'm going to use just rise over run. Since I have a picture, I can count it out. So for my AB, I'm going 1, 2, 3. I'm rising 3, and I'm running 1. 3 over 1. CD, I'm going to look at the same thing. I'm going up, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going over 1. 3 over 1. Yes, these are parallel. Yes, those are parallel. All right, now I'm going to check my other set. So I've got to check my BC and my AD. Do you guys know what slope that is when they're running horizontal? Yes, you're right. It is 0 and 0. I heard you answer that. So, yes, these are parallel as well. Okay, now I need to write one of those 5 tests from the previous page down. So take a look back, please. Which one are you going to write down? That's correct. You're looking back and you're saying it's going to be the 5th one there. The 5th one reads lines, whoops, not lines. Oh, sorry. It is a parallelogram because I have both sets of opposite sides parallel. How am I doing for time? Oh, 11 minutes, okay. Let's keep going here then. Next problem. I've already graphed it. You may have to pause and then come back after you're done graphing. This time, it's asking me to use the distance formula and the slopes. Distance formula and the slopes. So when I do slopes, I'm thinking of parallel. When I do distance formula, I'm thinking of the length. So I'm going to do parallel and equal sides. So I need to find one set of sides, opposite sides, their slopes and their distances. So I'm going to pick AB and CD. I need to do AB slope and CD's slope. Again, I can count A, B, boy, that looks like I'm off a little bit. I think I'm supposed to be just going up. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. These got off a little bit. So I was doing AB slope. I'm going up 2 and over 2, which is 2 over 2, which is 1. And same thing with CD. I'm going up 2 and over 2, which is 1. Now I'm going to need to do the distance. I need to find AB's length. I'm going to do Pythagorean theorem, and then I'm going to do CD's length. And I'm running out of room here. So same thing. Hey, great, I can use this triangle that I just drew. My D equals D squared equals 2 squared plus 2 squared. D equals 2 squared is 4 plus 4, which is root 8. I'm going to write that as 2 root 2. Same thing here. I'm going 2 by 2, so my D squared is 2 squared plus 2 squared. D is root 8, which is 2 root 2. So I'm getting parallel and I'm getting the correct distance. So this is a parallelogram. Parallelogram. Because one set of sides equal and parallel. All right, awesome. Thank you, and go ahead and get started on your next section of your homework, and we'll see you in class tomorrow.